turn our attention now to the fallout of the Victorian election. Joining us here in the Canberra studio is the Treasurer and Deputy Leader of the Liberal Party, Josh Frydenberg. There were certainly federal lessons to be learned. What will you be discussing with your federal colleagues this morning?
Oh, look, we'll be talking about how the campaign played out, because we were beaten pretty comprehensively in the campaign itself, both on the ground and in the advertising, both spend but also the way that they attacked us shamelessly and wrongly on health and education as well. We expect another scare campaign from the Labor Party at the next federal election, as we saw last time with Mediscare, and we need to be prepared for that.
Treasurer, does this result also show and reiterate that elections are won in the middle, if you look at the result not only for the Liberals but the Greens too?
Well, as you know, in Victoria, it's been a difficult battleground for the Liberal Party. We've lost 5 out of the last 6 state elections, but at the same time, we've won 4 out of the last 6 federal elections. And Victoria will only become more important, Laura, over time, because its population in Melbourne particularly is growing so fast that we'll overtake Sydney in just over a decade. We got an extra seat at the last redistribution. It's expected after the next redistribution we'll get another seat. So the Liberal Party needs to be more effective in Victoria than we have been, and that's what we'll discuss today. Well, it's both in the campaigning and the issues that we promote. What we saw from Daniel Andrews was a big spending election campaign set of promises, whether it was on infrastructure. There were challenges in congestion. He threw money at infrastructure. There were challenges on health. He threw money at that. There were challenges and questions that were raised around law and order. He threw money at police. People were less concerned about the debt and the deficit in Victoria, mainly because Labor only revealed it with 48 hours to go in the election.
But they also campaigned very heavily against Matthew Guy alongside Scott Morrison. Scott Morrison didn't appear in Victoria, but he was in every ad, nearly every ad that Labor ran.
Yeah.
You talk about them being negative. They were, but the big target was the federal Liberal figures. So yeah, you have to concede that that was a big chunk of the vote against the Liberal Party.
Well, Kieran, as Matthew Guy himself has said, it was a state election fought on state issues, and I think that's really important.
But that's not true. It's not, but it wasn't entirely that. You must concede that the Labor advertising, the vast bulk of it was about the federal Liberal Party. There was Morrison, Abbott, Dutton, Guy.
But there were Labor lies in the advertising around cuts to health and education, which is just absolutely wrong. Just absolutely wrong.
Yeah, but also,
now, we know that we'll face that.
I mean, on the specifics of those ads, I can show you one after the other of the billboards, the still photos, Morrison, Guy, Dutton. You know, they were everywhere.
And we know from the poll today about preferred PM that Scott Morrison is well ahead of Bill Shorten. And we know that Bill Shorten is no Dan Andrews. That being said, we're very much aware of the scale of the challenge, Kieran, that is ahead of us, both in Victoria and across the country. We need to focus on the core equity, which is the Australian economy, how it continues to grow at its fastest rate since the height of the mining boom, and only with a strong economy can you deliver the essential services in health and education and transport infrastructure that the people need and deserve. Daniel Andrews was surfing in on the back of a strong national economy and a strong economy in Victoria that the federal Liberals had helped create.
Treasurer, you just said that Daniel Andrews threw money at issues, infrastructure. Do you have a problem with that? And is that something that you will emulate as the federal Treasurer? You've heard the message that voters want to see money spent on hospitals, on schools, on infrastructure. So can we expect a big spending budget?
Well, it's all about getting the balance right. Of course, you've got to spend on productivity-linked infrastructure, and you've seen the announcement, for example, the $5 billion that we're contributing for the Melbourne to Airport rail link and a whole host of other regional projects in Victoria, as well as Monash Freeway and the like. We will spend on infrastructure, but what Labor did is that they announced a minute to midnight that they were doubling their debt levels, and that wasn't enough time for the people of Victoria to actually comprehend some of the consequences of Labor's policy.
Joe, I just want to ask you about these numbers in the Australian. Simon Benson reporting today about the dividend imputation affecting. You've done this analysis, your office, trying to highlight the impact in Labor seats.
It's ATO data, which shows very clearly that over 900,000 individuals be affected by Labor's desperate cash grab. We'll see 200,000 plus self-managed super funds hit, and that over 80% of the people who are hit by Labor's cash grab have a taxable income under $37,000. And what basically Chris Bowen is saying is it's okay for him or Bill Shorten with high incomes to be able to get the full benefits of their franking credits, but it's not okay for retirees who have got low incomes, who have undertaken the difficult decisions to personally save for their future to also get the benefit.
Treasurer, we'll see the budget in April then?
Well, the budget and the timing of the budget is a decision for the Prime Minister. I'm sure announcements will be made in due course as to how we proceed next year, but we have a very strong economic story to tell.
So some flexibility there then?
Well, the budget can be held at a time that the government chooses.
Treasurer, we appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thanks, Treasurer. Appreciate it. EU leaders have approved an agreement on Britain's withdrawal, insisting it's the best and only deal possible.
The 20